Yields, I now recognize Mr. Strong for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to talk about the cost of illegal immigration that the taxpayers in my district bear the burden of. It's estimated that this year alone, immigration will cost Alabama taxpayers $524 million. Illegal aliens throughout America are destroying economies, school systems, hospitals, law enforcement, first responders, court system, and jails. 20,288 border wall panels are being stored by this administration in 3 states rather than being installed. This is a failed process that has cost the taxpayers of America more than $300 million to store since 2012. This border fence, it should be installed immediately. If members of Congress support this administration's failed Southern policy, speak up and let your support be known. I feel more than confident that Governor Abbott will be happy to direct buses to your district, and let's see how 100,000 illegals destroy your community. President Donald Trump's been talked about several times. Let's just get one thing straight. His process worked. He processed and returned illegal aliens to the country of their origin. This administration created this southern border circus. Secretary Mayorkas continues to testify. He has operational control of the southern border. And every American understands that he is full of hot air. Our country is under attack at the southern border. They're coming from Cuba, Haiti, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Venezuela, Iran, and guess what? They're coming from China too, and that's just to name a few. America has become the world's dumping ground for illegal immigration. The Mexican cartel is flying 17 drones for each one flown by Border Patrol, delivering fentanyl. Drones are crossing through U.S. airspace, and Secretary Mayorkas does nothing. If he wants to jam these drones or he wants to drop them, I can tell you this, I've got multiple companies in my district that can neutralize this threat within a matter of weeks. Secretary Mayorkas continues to chew his fingernails and does nothing. Mr. Borelli, as my colleagues have mentioned, the cost to taxpayers in New York is a little higher. This year, it is projected that illegal immigration will cost New York taxpayers nearly $10 billion. This year has also seen record inflation, which has impacted every American family. What have you heard from those in your district about the rising cost? Is this more difficult for them to make ends meet?
Look, the cost concern is more about, for them, the city spending and the impact that migrant shelters have on their lives. We have a shelter that opened up in Staten Island a few weeks ago where the neighbor who owns a house has the showers for the shelter essentially abutting his backyard. On the cost side, we're starting to see that play out now. I mean, in truth, when this crisis first started, if this was 5,000 people or 10,000 people in a $107 billion budget, we wouldn't have even noticed that. Now we're seeing the downstream impacts on cost. We don't have the luxury that, with all due respect, my friends here in the federal government have to spend in deficit. So when we take, an apple from this jar, put it in the other jar, it has to come from somewhere else.
Who do you think they blame for that?
I think they blame President Biden 100%.
Mr. Borelli, low English proficiency students have a negative effect on classroom environments and education budgets because these students are often behind and cannot speak English. Additional school funding to compensate for the language barrier is often costly. In fact, it's estimated that it costs $10,000 a year to educate your average student in Alabama. When they are a LEP student, it costs approximately $6,000 more each year, and on top of that, an additional $4,000 if that student is also impoverished. So it costs about 100% more to educate these students. It's estimated that Alabama has about 31,000 undocumented students. I'll let you do the math and what this is costing our education system. Mr. Borelli, can you talk more about the impact on school budgets and what you're observing in your district?
Sure. So we have hired 3,500 teachers proficient in ESL. We have an additional 1,700 teachers that are certified bilingual. Part of the problem is that a lot of those teachers are bilingual in Spanish, and now we're seeing languages from other parts of the world where we may not have readily available services for them. The cost per kid in New York beats you by a significant dollar amount, it's $38,000 per student, and I would estimate that's very close to the actual cost because many of these students would be on the high end of the spending spectrum because they are coming with certain special needs. In many cases, they're not up to speed on third grade or fifth grade levels yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields. I now